But you see, Baphomet has been labeled as this symbol associated with, I mean, it's natural for it to be associated with Satanism now and Luciferianism, but Baphomet is, I think it's pretty much been a symbol for a long time, used by a lot of different people, but primarily Baphomet has always represented, excuse me, has always represented just a completion, a alchemic absolution of all things, and yet still yearning for more knowledge. That's what Baphomet represents. It represents this ecstatic completion within the self, and yet still being capable of seeking new knowledge. That's what Baphomet represents for me personally. I can't speak for anyone else. Now, naturally, Baphomet to me does have a Luciferian connotation too, because that's how I utilize its energy. Baphomet to me can be a lot of things. It can be a aspect of myself which activates whenever I need to feel inspired and driven to experience new things. Baphomet can represent a creative input from my mind, just trying to say complete and put together all these different elements and then become that aspect, become that creation, that moment that I'm creating it, so that I can present it externally to myself by actually putting myself in the mind state, just the state that I need to be in to create something, to draw something, to make music, because I make music and I write and I draw. And any single time I feel that Baphomet type energy, it's almost overwhelming, because I can't liken it to anything else, similar to my feeling of simply just doing ritual. Baphomet type experiences, as I would call it, is simply a natural recognition of every aspect of yourself during a ecstatic energy awakening, and it can be very, very exhilarating and indescribable to people who aren't used to awakening their life force energy. So Baphomet is symbolic in that way of basically potentially everything, and especially of divine knowledge in relation to the awakening of the serpent energy and every result that can come from that thereof. Now, I also mentioned that I was going to go in detail about the divine aspect of, as I said, the divine aspect of the self. I mentioned that before. This is usually associated with Lilith, and Lilith has been associated with many things. Over time, she has been seen as a child killer. She has been seen as the first, she's labeled and described as the first wife of Adam. In fact, in the beginning, one idea through I think it's a Hebrew Bible, that mentioned that Lilith was the first wife of Adam and not Eve. And in the beginning, Adam and Lilith were both made from sand, and they were equal. And Lilith left Eden of her own will because she refused to submit to Adam, because Adam saw her as just a woman that would listen to him, which should sound common these days. That's why a lot of women feel connected to her, I would imagine, is because she did not submit to man. She left and became independent for herself, and she swam in a river of sin, if you will, of where the demons congregated, and she became the queen of Succubi from there. And whenever the archangels of God went on to her to attempt to reveal what she had done to God, she said to have sworn on his name that if she would continue to be allowed to live, then she would only kill the children that were not baptized. And if they were not baptized within a week of their birth, then she was allowed to kill them. And at the cost of this, she would kill, I think, 100 of her children per day, maybe it was 1,000 of her children per day, Lilith's own children per day. So that's the mythology behind that, and Lilith has been a figure that sort of goes into all these different cultures. She's often symbolized as Inanna, or Ishtar, and Ishtar is a Sumerian, if I remember right. I think she's a Sumerian goddess, and Ishtar was seen as having a beehive on her head, or maybe it was her hair, you can't really tell. She was also seen as symbolized with wings, similar to Pazuzu, the feathered wings. She had a very human body, but for the most part, half of her wasn't. She had the talons of a eagle, or well, more likely an owl, because she's often seen with two screech owls on either side of her, as well as jackals on either side of her. And the screech owl is associated with Lilith very greatly in many esoteric cultures today. So, whenever you see Lilith, remember that she represents independence and freedom and awakening of the divine feminine aspect of yourself. And men and women alike can work with Lilith. And Lilith is a type of energy being. She's a very powerful being which just simply will not submit. And it's a lot of the time she's the type of entity, according to some people, that will come to you. And it's just somewhat I can't describe it. I've had dreams about Lilith, but this was because my practice at the time revolved around her. But it's just, Lilith is a very powerful symbol. And I would highly recommend that if you're going to attempt to work with the energies of Lilith, be prepared for the unexpected. Because Lilith's energy extends beyond the current time frame. If you want to see everything from a perspective of all time is connected together and nothing is really apart from one another, then you're connecting to an archetype, an energy of a current associated with Lilith, the name Lilith. It's extending back in time to all these other cultures. So you see, the older the deity, the farther its energy connection will go back throughout time, through different dimensions, through different parallel existences. This is why it's vital that you remember that anything you experience is your own doing and none others, because the instant you begin to believe otherwise, you are allowing these currents to flow randomly to you from your focus and give you whatever result the dominant belief is said to give you. That is why people who claim to have died and gone to hell did so, is because they believed the place existed, but they made no input to say they wouldn't go there. They just said it was possible, 50-50. So their consciousness experienced a hell temporarily. Temporarily, throat's getting dry. Before they were revived and became hardcore Christian believers again. It's because the belief was there in the subconscious. As I mentioned before, this is the importance of listening to your subconscious and anything that might be there trying to get you to focus on it. If you have skeletons in the closet, you better tend to them, or they might just fall out when you least expect it. Always listen to your intuition, listen to yourself, and do not doubt yourself. And remember, awaken the divine feminine, and it can merge with the divine masculine. Fire and water combined create lightning and set yourself free.